Hello, and welcome to the Book Club Review, the podcast about book clubs and the books that get you talking. Sanoba Kilodar has been running her book club Wilde Imagination for 2 years. Made up of doctors, lawyers, journalists and stay-at-home mums, her group follows a fairly standard book club format, except in one respect. They invite the authors to come along. But how, I wondered, can you have a full and frank discussion of the book with the author right there? Well, keep listening to find out. We began, though, with how she got started with her book club.
I was wanting to be part of a book club and I had become part of a few, but I just couldn't gel with the group of people and the books they were reading. And I thought, actually, why don't I just start it up myself? And I'm a teacher by profession, so it sort of came quite naturally for me to take control of things. I went through my contacts list and my friends, people I've known from different walks of life over 20 or 30 odd years. And I texted them and I told them, would you like to do a book club? They were very keen on it. And now, 2.5 years down the line, we've grown to about 22 members.
That's quite a lot of people. So logistically, how does that work when you get together?
We take it in turns. Once a month, a different person will choose a book, and then they will also host in their house, or they can do it outside as well. We've had a few in coffee shops and so on, but generally we have them in their own homes, and we try and make what's like a one dish thing, so everyone brings a few drinks and nibbles and stuff, and we keep it simple that way.
And do you have any way of, again, with that many people, making sure that everyone is comfortable? And sometimes people are a bit more reticent. Some people probably like me just dive right in there and go on and on and on, and no one else can get a word in edgeways. And I'm just interested in how people kind of manage that dynamic.
Yeah, I mean, what I do is I actually lead all of the book club discussions, and I guess because the teacher and me, I sort of go in with all the questions. I know the ones that are slightly quieter, so I will sort of start off asking the question to those people, and then obviously you will get the bigger characters who will sort of chip in. But I will try and include everyone in the discussion. Often I'll just go around in a circle and make sure that everyone has had their say and their opinion is heard.
And do you have any rating system, or do you mark the books?
We do, sort of just, I guess, verbally, just in the actual meeting itself. And sometimes, books can vary. I mean, one person reading one book may give it a 4, and another person reading the same book would give it a 7 or 8. So it does vary in that sense.
Tell us about the books. Have there been any particular books that really stand out for you? They're over 2.5 years, once a month. That's quite a few books. Are there any that linger in your memory?
Yes. One of the first ones, actually, that we read was Girl in Traffick. That's by Mamta Valderrama. She's written this book about organ trafficking, which is a really interesting topic because it got us investigating further, and a lot of us didn't know very much about it.
I didn't know anything about organ trafficking.
I mean, we'd heard about it, but that was it. We didn't actually know how it happened, how it affected people and so on. She actually sort of made it very personable to everyone, and it was a really good story, and it got us talking. So I thought that was a really great book club read. And it was one of the first few that we read. Very evocative book as well, heartrending as well. So I'd really recommend that. Also, another one that we read recently was Eleanor, Oliphant. Perfectly Fine. I'm sure that a lot of other readers and listeners have heard about that one as well.
I think I'm the only person in the world who hasn't read that.
Oh, have you not? Oh my gosh. You have to read that book.
Is it good?
Yes. I mean, that was one of the
I think
few.
I'm a bit wary of books that have that much hype, Yeah,
I mean, I was as well. And it wasn't one of my choices. It was another member of the book club chose it. But obviously then I had to read it. But I was very pleasantly surprised how good it was. And it was one of the few books of all the books that we read in the last 2.5 years that every single person in the book club loved. And they consistently high scores all the way through. And everyone finished the book as well, which is always good.
But were you able then to have a good discussion? Sometimes I think, when everyone really loves a book, sometimes they're not always the best discussion books, are they? Because everyone's just like, oh, it was so great.
True. But as often, I play the devil's advocate, and I do try and give the other point of view as well. And do come up with questions as in, what do you think about that? Is it too this, or is it too superficial, or too simplistic, too black and white? So I do try and bring in those questions to try and make everyone in the club sort of look at the other side of things. I think that's one of the main reasons of having a book club is actually understanding yourself, understanding other people, putting yourself in other people's situations and being empathic towards those kind of things, really, to open up your eyes to those things. If you're not doing that, then you're not succeeding in a book club.
Yeah, very true. I was very interested to talk to you because I think you do something really interesting that I'm not sure that many book clubs try, and that's that you try and involve the authors in your discussions. So how have you managed to do that, and how does that work?
Well, basically, it just sort of happened because when we read The Girl in Traffic, the actual author had contacted me on Facebook. I'd posted something about our book club on another Facebook site. And so she contacted me and she asked if we would be prepared to read her book. And I looked at the sort of just spiel about it and I thought, okay, it's an interesting topic, sure. And she's actually based in California. So we read the book and then she Skyped in with us in the actual meeting. So we had our meeting, we had our discussion. So we got out all our issues with it or anything. And then after that, then we had like half an hour, 40 minutes where she Skyped in from California and we had a sort of question and answer session, what inspired her to write it, you know, what motivated her, what's her next projects and so on, and how she accomplished writing a book like that, how much research was involved.
Do you think that changed anyone's engagement with the book?
Yeah, I think it definitely does actually. All the ones that we've had, quite a few where we're able to speak to the authors, and it is much easier now to actually contact people that may live a lot further away than before. So that's what I try and do, and some of my members will do in the book club. And it does give you a different perspective on it as well. It makes you understand, you know, why a certain character was maybe a certain way, what motivated the person. And it probably makes you love the book even more, I think, in a way. It probably won't make you start loving it if you hated it originally, but if you liked the book, then you probably end up loving it if you actually speak to the author, I think. So it just gives that different dynamic to the understanding of the book, I think.
Yeah. And the other thing I love about that is that obviously you're reaching out to these people and sort of slightly to my surprise, they seem quite happy to, yes, you know.
Well, for me, it's like if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, I don't think of authors as being almost like accessible in that way.
No, exactly. And I mean, we did the same when we were reading Victoria and Abdul as well. The author, Shrabani Basu, we got in touch with her through social media, through Twitter. And she was actually very accommodating. She Skyped in with us and she was lovely. And then she even invited us to like a book signing that came up a few weeks later. So we actually got to know her face to face as well. We've had lots of adventures through the book club. I think it's been good.
That sounds fantastic. And tell us about that book.
This was Victoria and Abdul, which is based on the real life story of Queen Victoria and Abdul, who became her very close friend and confidant. He had come from India and she came to rely on him for a lot of things. He actually taught her how to speak and write in Hindi, in Urdu. He introduced her to curries. Once a week in the Queen's household, they used to make curry. And that's how curry came to the UK, I think. And it was all the influence that he actually had on her. And it's very little known about it until this historian, Shrabani Basu, went and looked up all these archives and all these letters that Queen Victoria had written to Abdul, and he'd written back to her over the span of 10 years, 20 years, and how much she had come to rely on him.
This is sounding familiar, but I think, did they make a film of it?
They did.
Is this with Judi Dench?
Yes, that's right. Yes, they did make a film of it as well, and very soon after.
Was the film any good compared to the book? Because the book sounds great.
Yes, the book was really, really good. We did go and watch the film together as well. Judi Dench, she can't go wrong with that, really. Combination.
And have there been any books? It sounds like, you know, the ones we've mentioned sound like they were really good ones. But have there been any that didn't work, or you remember?
Yeah, I mean, we had one book that was called The First 15 Lives of Harry August. And the premise of it was basically about free will and self-determinism. So the main character, he was reborn again and again at the same point in time, with his memories intact. And it's basically about saying how all of your choices determine what happens in your life. And the premise of it sounded very good, and I was quite excited about starting it. However, we just found it very long, too many characters, and it just got very bogged down with a lot of the scientific jargon. You know, we were like skipping bits. It was just too much, we thought. So I think we lost it sort of halfway through. A lot of us ended up not finishing the book because we just lost the will for it, really, I think. So unfortunately, that didn't go down too well.
It was too put-downable.
Yes, I think so, yes, unfortunately.
Well, let's turn from the bad ones. Let's go back to the good ones, shall we? What
better.
were some of the other good ones?
Another really good one that I enjoyed personally was Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles.
Yeah.
It was quite a long book, and a few of us didn't actually finish it, but the ones that liked it loved it. And I think we just fell in love with the main character and how he withstood everything that came towards him and his whole attitude to everything that happened to him. And I think you learn so much from that book, and the descriptions that are in there. It just paints such a wonderful picture.
Did the others in your group like it as much as you?
We were quite split in that. There were some that liked it. They fell in love with the character just like I did. But there were some who just found it a little bit long and a little bit tedious. So we were quite split in that respect. But it was a very interesting discussion that we had on the back of it. So it was a very good book club read in that sense.
I remember reading it and then immediately wanting to talk to people about it. And I always think those are the books. Yeah. The ones that you know are going to make for really good discussion books.
Yeah.
And what are you reading next?
We're just about to start Homegoing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't started it yet, so heard good stuff about it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for telling me about your book club. Particularly to hear about the authors. I think that's something really, it would be nice perhaps if more book clubs were inspired to try that.
Yeah,
I don't know whether these authors want all these people.
The worst they can do is say no.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and we've had a few no's, and that's fine, but it doesn't stop us from trying again.
Yeah, good for you.
So,
thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's all for this episode. A quick recap of those book club suggestions. Sanoba mentioned A Girl in Traffic by Mamta Valderrama. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Victoria and Abdul, The True Story of the Queen's Closest Confidant by Shrabani Basu. The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor, Towles. And Homegoing by Gyasi. On our next book club show, we'll be discussing I Will Never See the World Again by imprisoned Turkish novelist Ahmet Altan, which was my book club's choice. But what do we make of this brief memoir, of which A.L. Kennedy writes, "Read this, it will explain why you ever read anything, why anyone ever writes." Listen in to find out. And watch out for our next bookshelf show, coming soon, in which we discuss all the things we're reading outside of book club and whether there are any book club gems in there. If you'd like to see what we're up to between episodes, follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Book Club Review Podcast, on Twitter at Book Club RVW Pod, or email thebookclubreview@gmail.com and tell us about your book club. And if you're not already, subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and never miss an episode. But for now, thanks for listening and happy reading.